What happens when a royal guest mistakes morning television for a personal platform and goes head-to-head with one of America's most beloved hosts? In just 34 seconds, a single comment would turn a friendly interview into the most shocking moment in Good Morning America history. The studio lights were bright that morning. Michael Strahan sat across from Meghan Markle, his trademark smile warm and welcoming. The interview had been promoted for weeks. Viewers tuned in expecting charm, grace, and maybe some light-hearted banter about her latest projects. But that's not what they got. The first few minutes seemed normal enough. Michael opened with his usual warmth. "Welcome to Good Morning America. We're so excited to have you here today." Meghan smiled, but something felt off. The energy in the room shifted almost immediately. "Thank you for having me," she said. "Though I have to say, I expected a bit more from this setup. The green room was quite small." Michael laughed it off, professional as always. "Well, we saved the big spaces for the on-air magic. So let's talk about what you've been working on lately. Your fans are really excited to hear from you." "Fans?" Meghan repeated, her tone strange. "Yes, well, I suppose some people follow what I do. Though I'm not sure your usual audience would quite understand the scope of my work." The camera caught Michael's expression change, just slightly. He kept smiling, but his eyes showed surprise. "I think our audience is pretty diverse and informed. They tune in every morning to learn about all kinds of stories." "Of course," Meghan said, waving her hand dismissively. "Morning show audiences. I meant no offense. It's just that the projects I'm involved with operate on a different level. International philanthropy, global initiatives. Not exactly your typical cooking segment content." You could feel the temperature drop. The crew members glanced at each other. This wasn't going the way anyone had planned. Michael straightened in his chair. His voice stayed even, but firmer now. "We cover serious news every single day, important stories that matter to millions of people. In fact, that's exactly why we invited you here, to have a real conversation." "A real conversation," Meghan said. "Is that what this is? Because I was under the impression I'd be speaking with someone who understood the weight of what I deal with daily. The pressures, the scrutiny." "I think I know a little something about pressure and scrutiny," Michael replied. His smile was gone now. "I've been in the public eye for decades, as an athlete, as a broadcaster. I understand what it means to have millions watching your every move." Meghan leaned back, her expression cool. "With all due respect, Michael, you chose your spotlight. You played a game. I was born into a different kind of responsibility, one that comes with actual consequence on a global scale." The gasps from the crew were audible. Someone dropped a clipboard. This was escalating fast. Michael took a breath. You could see him choosing his words carefully. "I think everyone's journey is valuable. Everyone's story matters. That's the whole point of having conversations like this. To connect. To understand each other." "Connect," Meghan said, and she actually laughed. "You want to connect? Then perhaps you should have prepared better questions. These talking points feel beneath both of us. Did your producers even research who I am?" "Our team prepared thoroughly," Michael said, and now there was an edge to his voice. "We always do. But I'm starting to think maybe this interview was a mistake." "Oh, now we're getting somewhere," Meghan said. "Finally, some honesty. You know what I think? I think you invited me here for ratings. To use my name, my status, to boost your numbers. And you thought I'd just sit here and play along with your little morning show game." Michael shook his head slowly. "That's not true, and that's not fair. We invited you because our audience wanted to hear from you. Because people are interested in what you have to say. But you've done nothing but insult this show. Our viewers, and frankly, me, since you sat down." "Insult?" Meghan's voice rose. "I'm simply being honest about the limitations of this format. If you can't handle a guest who speaks their mind, who doesn't just smile and nod and give you sound bites, then maybe you're not the journalist you think you are." The control room was in chaos. Producers were making frantic hand signals. Commercial break. Go to commercial. But Michael wasn't backing down. "I've interviewed presidents," he said, his voice strong and clear. "I've talked with world leaders, celebrities, athletes, activists, people from every walk of life, and I've always shown them respect, even when we disagree, even when the conversation gets tough. But respect goes both ways, and right now, you're not showing any." Meghan stood up. Actually stood up, right there in the middle of the interview. "Excuse me? You heard me," Michael said, standing as well. "You've been condescending since the moment you arrived. To our staff, to this show, to me, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that's okay." "How dare you?" Meghan said, her voice shaking with anger. "Do you know who you're speaking to? Do you have any idea what I've accomplished? What I've overcome?" "I know exactly who I'm speaking to," Michael replied. "A guest on my show who forgot that this is a conversation, not a lecture. Who forgot that being on television is a privilege, not a right." Meghan's face flushed red. "A privilege? You think having me here is a privilege for me? You should be grateful I even agreed to this. Do you know how many interview requests I turned down? How many shows would kill to have me in that chair?" "Then maybe you should go do one of those interviews," Michael said quietly, "because this one is over." The studio went silent. Completely silent. You could hear the cameras still rolling, the faint hum of the lights, but nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "What did you just say to me?" Meghan asked, her voice dangerously low. "I said this interview is over," Michael repeated. "I'm not going to continue a conversation with someone who has no respect for me, my team, or our audience. So thank you for coming, but it's time for you to go." Meghan stared at him, her mouth open in shock. "You're kicking me off." "I'm ending an interview that stopped being productive about 5 minutes ago," Michael said. "We can go to commercial, you can leave with dignity, and we can all move on." "Productive?" Meghan shot back. "You want to talk about productive? Nothing about this setup has been productive from the start. The questions you prepared are surface level at best. You're treating me like some reality television star here to promote a new product." Michael's jaw tightened. "We treat every guest with the same respect and preparation. If you felt the questions were surface level, you had every opportunity to take the conversation deeper. Instead, you chose to attack." "Attack?" Meghan's laugh was sharp and bitter. "Oh, that's rich. I'm simply refusing to play the game. The game where I smile sweetly, answer your pre-approved questions, and make everyone feel comfortable. I'm sorry if my authenticity is too much for your format." "Authenticity and rudeness are not the same thing," Michael said, his voice rising slightly for the first time. "You can be real without being disrespectful. You can be honest without being condescending. And you can have standards without making everyone around you feel small." Meghan's eyes flashed. "Feel small? Is that what this is about? Your ego can't handle that I'm not fawning over you?" "This has nothing to do with my ego," Michael replied, his composure returning. "This has everything to do with basic human decency, something you seem to have forgotten on your way into the studio." "Unbelievable," Meghan muttered, shaking her head. "Absolutely unbelievable. I come here as a favor, take time out of my incredibly busy schedule, and this is how I'm treated?" "You came here because your team reached out to us," Michael corrected. "Multiple times, actually. You wanted this platform. You wanted this audience. And now that you have it, you're throwing it away because you can't be bothered to show basic courtesy." "My team reached out," Meghan repeated slowly. "My team, not me. And clearly, they made a mistake in judgment." "Then we finally agree on something," Michael said. "This was a mistake. For both of us." "Dignity?" Meghan's voice was loud now, echoing through the studio. "You're talking to me about dignity? After ambushing me with these juvenile questions? After wasting my time with this pathetic excuse for journalism?" Michael didn't flinch. Nobody ambushed you. You came here knowing exactly what kind of show this is. And if our questions weren't up to your standards, you could have handled that with grace. Instead, you chose to be rude and dismissive. That's on you. Grace? Meghan's voice dripped with sarcasm. You want grace? From me? After sitting here with that fake smile, pretending this is some kind of legitimate news program when we both know it's entertainment for people eating their breakfast? Those people eating their breakfast are why you have a career, Michael said, his voice sharp now. They're the ones who watched you, supported you, cared about your story, and you just insulted every single one of them. Don't you dare, Meghan said, pointing her finger at him. Don't you dare use the audience as a shield. This is between you and me. Your inability to conduct a proper interview and my refusal to tolerate mediocrity. You know what I think, Michael said, leaning forward. I think you came here looking for a fight. I think you wanted to create a moment. And congratulations, you got one, but not the kind you were hoping for. Meghan laughed again, that same bitter sound. You think you know me? You think you understand anything about my life, my choices, my responsibilities? You play football and read from a teleprompter. That's your legacy. The entire crew gasped. Someone actually said, "Oh my God," out loud. This had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Michael stood up slowly, deliberately. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but it carried through the entire studio. I played football, yes, and I was pretty damn good at it. Good enough to win a Super Bowl. Good enough to earn the respect of my teammates and my opponents. And then I built a second career in broadcasting, working my way up, learning the craft, earning my place at this desk. He paused, looking directly at Meghan. You can insult me all you want, question my intelligence, my credentials, my worth, but everything I have, I earned. I didn't marry into it. I didn't complain my way into it. I worked for it. So if you want to compare legacies, let's do that. But I don't think you're going to like how that conversation ends. Meghan's face went through several colors. How dare you? How absolutely dare you make this about my marriage? You know nothing about what I've built on my own. Then tell us, Michael challenged. Use this platform, right now. Tell our viewers about all the amazing work you're doing, the lives you're changing, the difference you're making. Stop talking about how special and important you are, and actually show us. This is unbelievable, Meghan said, so looking around at the crew like she expected someone to intervene. Is anyone else seeing this? He's actually throwing me out. One of the producers stepped forward nervously. Maybe we should all just take a breath and... No, Michael said firmly. No breath. No reset. This is done. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one more time to please leave the set. Meghan's eyes widened. You can't do this to me. Do you know what kind of backlash you're going to face? The headlines this will create? I'm willing to live with that, Michael said. I've built my career on treating people with respect and expecting the same in return. I'm not going to compromise that for anyone, not even you. The two stood there, face to face, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Meghan's hands were clenched at her sides. Michael's expression was calm, but unmovable. Fine, Meghan finally said, her voice icy. Fine, I'll leave your little show. But mark my words, Michael Strahan, you just made the biggest mistake of your career. I don't think I did, Michael replied. I think I just stood up for myself and my team, and that's never a mistake. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside the chair. She turned to walk off set, then stopped and looked back. You know what? You're right about one thing. This interview was a waste of time, but not for the reasons you think. It was a waste because I lowered myself to even be here in the first place. Then we both learned something today, Michael said. I learned that sometimes the people who demand the most respect are the ones least willing to give it. And you learned that not everyone is going to bow down just because you walk in the room. Meghan's face went pale, then red again. For a moment, it looked like she might say something else. Something worse. But instead, she just turned and walked off the set, her heels clicking loudly against the floor. The crew stood frozen. Michael waited until she was completely gone, then turned to the camera. His composure was perfect, his voice steady. "We're going to take a quick break," he said to the viewers at home. "When we come back, we've got a great cooking segment lined up. Stay with us." The second the cameras cut, the studio erupted. People were talking over each other. Phones were ringing. Producers were running in every direction. Michael's co-host Robin came over immediately. "Michael, are you okay?" she asked, her hand on his shoulder. "I'm fine," he said, and he meant it. "I'm actually fine." Robin searched for words. "I've never seen anything like that in 20 years of doing this." "Neither have I," Michael admitted. "But it had to be done. You saw what was happening. It wasn't going to get better." George, his other co-host, joined them. "The network is freaking out. Phones are ringing off the hook. But Michael, for what it's worth, you handled that perfectly. You gave her every chance to reset, to have a real conversation. She chose not to." "I just kept thinking about our crew," Michael said, glancing around at the team members who were still processing what they'd witnessed. "The way she talked to them earlier. The way she talked down to everyone. And I thought, if I let this continue, what message does that send? One that it's okay to treat people like that, as long as you're famous enough?" Robin nodded. "You did the right thing. It took guts, but you did the right thing." In the control room, the director was already on the phone with the network executives. This was going to be everywhere within the hour. Social media was about to explode. The clips would go viral before lunchtime. But down on the studio floor, Michael was calm. He'd done nothing wrong. He'd been respectful, patient, and professional right up until it became clear that none of that was being returned. And then he'd done what he had to do. One of the younger crew members approached him during the break, a woman named Sarah who worked in production. "Michael, thank you." He looked at her, surprised. "For what?" "For standing up for us," she said quietly. "She was horrible to me this morning. Absolutely horrible. And I just had to take it because that's the job, right? But watching you not take it, watching you draw that line, it meant something." Michael felt a lump in his throat. "Nobody should have to take that. I don't care who it is. You deserved better, and I'm sorry you went through that." Sarah smiled, tears in her eyes. "You're one of the good ones, Michael. Don't let anyone tell you different." Other crew members started coming over, one by one. The makeup artist who'd been snapped at, the production assistant who'd been sent on impossible errands, the stage manager who'd been ignored completely when trying to explain the show's timing. They all had stories. They all had moments from that morning where they'd been made to feel small, insignificant, unworthy of basic respect. And they all thanked Michael for what he'd done. Michael smiled, genuine this time. "I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Sometimes you have to draw a line. This was one of those times." The stage manager called out that they were back in 30 seconds. Michael straightened his tie, cleared his throat, and got ready to welcome the chef who was making some kind of autumn soup. As if nothing had happened. As if he hadn't just kicked one of the most famous women in the world off his show. Because at the end of the day, that's exactly what Good Morning America needed from him. Not drama for the sake of drama. Not conflict for ratings. But someone who would protect the integrity of the show, stand up for his team, and refuse to let anyone treat them as less than. The red light came back on. Michael smiled at the camera. "Welcome back," he said, his voice warm and friendly again. "Now, I don't know about you, but when fall comes around, I start craving comfort food. And our next guest is going to show us how to make the perfect butternut squash soup. Please welcome Chef Maria Rodriguez." As the show wrapped up and the credits rolled, Michael thanked his co-hosts, thanked the viewers, and signed off with his usual warmth. Then the cameras stopped, the lights dimmed, and the real conversations began. The producers were worried. Network executives were already making statements. Social media was, as predicted, losing its mind. But Michael wasn't concerned with the noise. He'd been in this business long enough to know that controversy fades. Headlines change. What doesn't change is your integrity, your values. And on that morning, in that moment, Michael Strahan had made his choice clear. The green room incident that Meghan had complained about at the start suddenly made more sense to everyone. Multiple crew members quietly confirmed that she'd been demanding from the moment she arrived. Nothing was quite right. The temperature, the lighting, the coffee, everything was a problem. Lisa, who managed the green room, pulled one of the producers aside. She complained about the flowers, Lisa said, still shaken. We had fresh flowers. Beautiful arrangement. She said they were cheap looking and asked if we even knew who she was. Then she said the furniture was uncomfortable. The water wasn't cold enough. The towels weren't soft enough. I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I've never had anyone speak to me like that. The hair and makeup team had their own stories. Rachel, who'd done Meghan's hair, described how every suggestion was met with criticism. She told me I clearly didn't understand her hair texture, that I should have researched her before she arrived. I showed her photos of previous work I'd done with similar hair types, and she just waved them away, said her standards were higher than my usual clients. Marcus from makeup added his experience. She kept checking her phone while I was working, wouldn't look up when I needed to see her face in different angles. When I politely asked her to put it down for just a moment, she told me she was handling important business and I'd just have to work around it. The assistant who'd been sent to fetch a specific brand of water, a young man named James, was still upset. She didn't even look at me when she asked, just pointed and said, "Get this, get that." And when I came back with the water, she took one sip and said it was too cold. Asked me to bring another bottle, but let it sit out for exactly 5 minutes. I timed it on my phone. Brought it back. She didn't even drink it. But none of that mattered now. What mattered was what had happened on camera. What viewers had seen with their own eyes. A host trying to have a respectful conversation. A guest who came in with an attitude and never let it go. Escalation that could have been avoided if one person had just chosen kindness over condescension. And finally, a moment of truth, where someone in power used that power not to attack, not to humiliate, but as simply to say enough. This is my show. These are my people, and we deserve respect. The stage manager called out that they were back in 30 seconds. Michael straightened his tie. Dean cleared his throat and got ready to welcome the chef who was making some kind of autumn soup. Robin squeezed his hand quickly. George gave him a nod of support, as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just kicked one of the most famous women in the world off his show. Because at the end of the day, that's exactly what Good Morning America needed from him. Not drama for the sake of drama. Not conflict for ratings. But someone who would protect the integrity of the show, stand up for his team, and refuse to let anyone treat them as less than. Michael packed up his things that afternoon, said goodbye to his team, and headed home. His phone was blowing up with messages, but he ignored most of them. For now, he just wanted to process what had happened, to make sure, in his own mind, that he'd handled it the right way. And he had. He knew he had. The interview that was supposed to be a friendly conversation had turned into something else entirely. A masterclass in boundaries. A reminder that fame doesn't excuse bad behavior. A demonstration that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is refuse to enable disrespect. That evening, as clips of the confrontation spread across every platform imaginable, one thing became clear. Michael Strahan had won the day. Not because he'd been louder or meaner or more dramatic, but because he'd simply refused to participate in a dynamic that degraded him and his show. And sometimes, that's the most powerful move of all. Just saying no. Just standing firm. And in those 34 seconds, when Michael Strahan told Meghan Markle that the interview was over, he didn't just end a conversation. He set a standard.